Okay, now we come to paragraph 16. Now, monks, this is the way leading to the origination of identity. This word translated here as personality, the Pali is Sakaya. And I think Rebel Thanissaro came up with this very apt translation, identity. This identity means we identify ourselves with here is talking about I, forms and all that. So because we identify ourselves with something in the world, basically this body and this mind, so there is this identity view that I exist. This is the way leading to the origination of identity. One regards the I thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. Similarly, one regards form thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. One regards eye consciousness, eye contact, feeling, craving thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. Similarly, one regards the ear thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself, etc. One regards the nose thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself, etc. One regards the tongue thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself, etc. One regards the body thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself, etc. One regards the mind thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. One regards mind objects thus, one regards mind consciousness thus, one regards mind contact thus, one regards feeling thus, one regards craving thus, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. I'll stop here for a moment. In some other suttas, when the Buddha talks about identity, Sakaya, the Buddha talks about the 5 aggregates. We identify ourselves with the body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, the 5 aggregates which are basically body and mind. But here it is in terms of the 6 sense bases. It's a bit different. Now monks, this is the way leading to the cessation of identity. One regards the I thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. One regards forms thus, similarly, one regards I consciousness thus, one regards eye contact thus, one regards feeling thus, one regards craving thus. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. Similarly, for the other sense basis, one regards the ear thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, etc. One regards the nose thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, etc. One regards the tongue thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, etc. One regards the body thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, etc. One regards the mind thus, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. One regards mind object, one regards mind consciousness, one regards mind contact, one regards feeling, one regards craving thus, this is not mine, this is I am not, this is not myself. This identity means we identify ourselves with this here, the 6 sense bases and the objects and the feeling, craving, etc. And this identity is one of the factors that prevent us from liberation. So when a person attains Sotapanna, then he can see that the body and the mind is not self. Because they are impermanent, as just now mentioned, they appear and disappear. Normally, most of us, we are very attached to our feelings. We crave for pleasant feelings, and we are very fearful of painful feelings. But feelings are one of the things that appears and disappears very fast. But then we don't see it. That's why we identify ourselves also with feelings. Monks, dependent on the I and forms, I consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, there arises a feeling felt as pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. When one is touched by a pleasant feeling, if one delights in it, welcomes it, and remains holding to it, then the underlying tendency to lust lies within one. If one is touched by a painful feeling, if one sorrows, grieves and laments, weeps beating one's breast and becomes distraught, then the underlying tendency to aversion lies within one. If one is touched by a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, if one does not understand as it actually is the origination, disappearance, gratification, danger and escape in regard to that feeling, then the underlying tendency to ignorance lies within one. Monks, that one shall here and now make an end of suffering without abandoning the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling, without abolishing the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feeling, without extirpating the underlying tendency to ignorance in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling, without abandoning ignorance and arousing true knowledge, this is impossible. Monks, dependent on the ear and sounds, ear consciousness arises, etc. Dependent on the mind and mind objects, it skips all the other bases. Mind consciousness arises. The meeting of the tree is contact. With contact as condition, there arises a feeling felt as pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, etc. Monks, that one should here and now make an end of suffering without abandoning the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling, without abandoning ignorance and arousing true knowledge, this is impossible. Stop here for a moment. So here, it's very clear when this pleasant feeling arises, there is normally underlying tendency to lust for it. And when painful feeling arises, as I mentioned just now, there is an underlying tendency to aversion, revulsion towards it. But when neither painful nor pleasant feeling arises, because it's a neutral feeling, it doesn't stir our emotions, so there is the underlying tendency to ignorance to it. So the Buddha here says, without abandoning the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling, without abolishing the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feeling, without extirpating the underlying tendency to ignorance, in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling, and without abandoning ignorance and arousing true knowledge, this is impossible. But then, unless we have cultivated our mind to have a developed mind, it is not easy to abandon the tendency to lust for pleasant feeling, or the tendency to aversion towards painful feeling. It's not easy. So we have to cultivate our mind. Then only we have a chance of abolishing those tendencies. Monks, dependent on the eye and forms, eye consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, there arises a feeling felt as pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. When one is touched by a pleasant feeling, if one does not delight in it, welcome it, and remain holding to it, then the underlying tendency to lust does not lie within one. If one is touched by a painful feeling, if one does not sorrow, grieve, and lament, does not weep, beating one's breast and become distraught, then the underlying tendency to aversion does not lie within one. If one is touched by a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, if one understands as it actually is the origination, disappearance, gratification, danger, and escape in regard to that feeling, then the underlying tendency to ignorance does not lie within one. Monks, that one shall here and now make an end of suffering by abandoning the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling, by abolishing the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feeling, by extirpating the underlying tendency to ignorance in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling, by abandoning ignorance and arousing true knowledge, this is possible. Monks, dependent on the ear and sounds, ear consciousness arises, etc. Dependent on the mind and mind objects, mind consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, there arises a feeling felt as pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, etc. Monks, that one shall here and now make an end of suffering by abandoning the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling, etc., by abandoning ignorance and arousing true knowledge. This is possible. So here, the Buddha is saying that only when one is unmoved by pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling, and one understands the neither painful nor pleasant feeling, the origination, disappearance, etc., and then and one can abandon ignorance and arouse true knowledge only This will enable us to attain liberation. As I mentioned before, we have to cultivate our mind before we can be unmoved by pleasant and unpleasant feelings, etc. Seeing thus monks, a well-taught noble disciple becomes disenchanted with the eye, disenchanted with forms, disenchanted with eye consciousness, disenchanted with eye contact, disenchanted with feeling, disenchanted with craving. Similarly, he becomes disenchanted with the ear, with the nose, with the tongue, with the body, with the mind. Disenchanted with the external sense objects, disenchanted with the sense consciousness, disenchanted with the contact, disenchanted with the feeling that arises, disenchanted with the craving. Being disenchanted, he becomes dispassionate. Through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge. It is liberated. He understands birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. Now, while this discourse was being spoken, through not clinging, the minds of 60 monks were liberated from the taints. That means they attained arahanthood. That's the end of the sutta. So here you see this paragraph 40. Seeing thus, a well-taught noble disciple becomes disenchanted with the eye, with forms, etc. So if we can see that everything in the world appears and disappears just like a dream, then we become disenchanted with everything in the world. If we really think about it, we think, for example, our childhood. Not so long ago, we were a small boy or a small girl. And then all that passed by just like a dream. All that remains is just your memory of your past. And if it's too long, like the previous life, even the memory also is lost. So at the end of this life, everything that seems so important in this world will all disappear entirely. That's why in some suttas the Buddha says at the moment of dying, everything will become cool. So don't take things don't be too attached to things in the world, because very soon we are going to leave everything behind, sooner than we realize. And at the end of our life, we will see that everything in the world actually is not important at all, just like a dream, just pass away. Only when we are in the dream, it seems so important, just like at night when we dream. When inside the dream, everything is so important. When it ends, then we realize nothing is important. So what is important is only where we are going to take rebirth, where we are going for another dream. So if you understand the Dhamma, then we are not so attached. And if we are not so attached, we don't suffer so much. I think tonight I have no time to complete another sutta that I wanted. It's already 49 minutes. I think this was a very interesting sutta, I think, to discuss. This is one of the profound suttas that to really understand, we have got to have a clearer mind. When we have a clearer mind, we are rid of the 5 hindrances, then we can understand more. You can see, like the Buddha spoke this discourse, those monks who had attained 4 jhanas, and they listened to this, 60 of them became arahants. It is discourses like this which are very important. Not like some people say the Satipatthana Sutta is the most important discourse. I don't see any monk listen to the Satipatthana Sutta and became arahant. But suttas like this, where the Buddha explains no self so clearly, if your mind is clear enough, you listen to suttas like this, then you will attain the various stages of Aryahood. If you were to think about this on your own, you can never understand it so well, like what the Buddha described here. That's why suttas are so helpful for us to attain wisdom and attain liberation. Because the Buddha's words are pure words of wisdom. We just need to understand it. But whether we understand it or not depends on our state of mind. Only when you have a clear mind, rid of the 5 hindrances, then only you can understand. Okay, anything to discuss? It is dependent origination, but not the standard 12 links of dependent origination. Yeah, of course it's important to understand. Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Feeling, feeling. I feel I cut off the craving. Yeah. 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 Oh, those people who became Arahant, it's not due to seeing this identity, Sakaya, but in seeing that paragraph 10, that no self. It's a paragraph 10 to 15. When they see this, then they become liberated. The paragraph 16 to 21, when they see that, then they become stream enterer only. So this type of sutta, if it will be good, if you all read it again and again and again, try to understand. At the same time, of course, you have to meditate, clear the mind of all the sloth and torpor and doubt and restlessness, etc. Then only you can see more clearly. The 5 hindrances are dropped when you are about to attain the first jhana. Just before entering the first jhana, what is called the threshold concentration by later books, or assess concentration, then the 5 hindrances drop away. Oh. When you attain the first jhana, then the 5 hindrances drop away quite permanently. But if you have attained the first jhana, it's no more hindrance. There are various degrees of this sloth and torpor. When it's strong, it is a hindrance. If it's not strong, it's not a hindrance. No doubt, you can see, is doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. When you understand the Dhamma, then you have no more doubt about Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. It's not about doubt about worldly things, No. There are last year when we did the Samyutta Nikaya, it was mentioned then about this neither painful nor pleasant feeling. There is I think there is a type that is worldly. There's type that is spiritual. Similarly, with delight, pity, there's a type that is worldly. When you enjoy worldly pleasures, there is a type of pity, there's a type of delight that is worldly, and then there's a type that is spiritual. The spiritual one refers to the first jhana. So I guess this one, this neutral feeling is also in regard to when you indulge in worldly, when you sort of your attention is directed towards worldly things. There is a type of neutral feeling. For example, you see a certain form. It's not especially beautiful or it's not especially ugly. So you just have a neutral feeling towards it. Or you hear a sound. It's not a beautiful classical music, and neither is it a unpleasant sound of somebody scolding you. So it's just a neutral feeling arises. But there's another type that is spiritual. I don't remember the definition, but you look into the Samyutta Nikaya, it's there. I think under feelings. Okay, can we end here?